Apple Rowan stuck in my head for days now. For days. You are not listening. You should. She's fantastic. Pink Pony Club has just been like going around in my head like, you're a pink pony girl and you dance at the club, oh mama. If you can't tell, I'm not a soprano. Anyway, hi. If you're new here, my name is Catherine and I'm here to talk about books. This is a video that is long overdue. It's long overdue, and I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, we're finally gonna get that video about nonfiction books. No, it's not that one. It's actually not that. A long time ago, I was tagged in a video called the Reader's Profile Tag. I was tagged by the Mild Rumpus, who I subscribe to. You should subscribe to his channel. He's great. He tagged me in this, I think, way before I even went on my trip, and I just had it in the back of my mind. I'm like, I'll get to it, I'll get to it. Didn't get to it. Nope. Didn't get to it, but now today we're doing it because I love these reader tag videos. I think they're so fun. It's just a fun way to just like talk about books and talk about like my ideas about books. So I'm very excited to do this video today. This tag was created by Hillary B. Green at Book Bustle. So I will have her video linked down below and I will have the Mild Rumpus's video tagged down below. And at the very end, I will tag some folks to do this challenge, to do this tag. It's just fun. It's just a little fun thing that we like to do. They're really fun questions. They're just good questions about my reading tastes, what I like in a book, and some like very tricky, stressful questions about like what books would I take to a deserted island, those kinds of questions, which I try to avoid. I don't like asking people because they stress me out. So yeah, without further ado, let's go through this tag. What for you makes a good book? This is honestly a hard question because I feel like my taste ranges, like I like all different types of books. But if we're talking strictly about novels, I think what makes a good book for me is when it's just exceptionally well written, which sounds silly because of course we're all looking to read something that's well written, but I mean that the language is very rich, it's very well constructed. It's like I'm looking for literature basically. And of course, this isn't always the case. I will read different types of books and it doesn't always have to be like the hard-hitting Nobel Prize winning author type novel, but on the whole, when I am attracted to a book, I'm looking for something that just has really strong writing. The author has like a really good command of language, has their own tone and their own style and voice that's very strong. If I can tell the story is not very well constructed or just the choice of vocabulary is really weak, there's a lot of repetition when that's not being used as a literary device, I check out. I start to go, okay. So I'm looking for very, very strong writing. I'm also looking for good characters. Like I'm not necessarily someone who needs like a very plot-driven book. I am totally down for a book that's like all vibes, no plot. But I find time and time again the books that I love and that I'm drawn to are ones that have very strong characters, strong character development. They're not characters that I have to be in love with, but they feel like real people, real fleshed out people. I feel like the author has to know what is in the characters' pockets, like what they had for breakfast and what they like and don't like. Like I feel like the author has to know these characters almost like they're real people, because then I read them and I'm like, I feel like I know them. I feel connected to this. If it is a book that's very plot heavy, it just has to be commanded correctly. It has to be structured well, they have to have a command of it, they really need to know what is going on from A to Z. Some older Dickens books, I'm like, he did not have control over that plot, and that's why I did not like the book. If it's a book that's more like vibes based, then it has to be something that has intention behind it. It has to be thought-provoking, it has to like bring up ideas, it has to be saying something if they're not going to put something in the plot. So on the whole, I'm looking mostly for very strong characters and for just very strong writing. I don't necessarily need to be entertained, I don't need to be happy at the end, it just has to be just rich, like a rich experience in some way, shape, or form. What are you currently reading? What am I currently reading? I just finished today, literally like an hour before I started filming this, I finished Silas Marner by George Eliot, which took me by surprise. Wasn't liking it that much, and then I actually wound up liking it, so that was fun. But I am currently reading Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joan Lindsay. This got picked for my book club, even though I am not going to my book club and I'm so sad. But I wanted to read this anyway. Like this is a book I wanted to get to this year, and summer is the perfect time for this book. So I'm reading Picnic at Hanging Rock, and I'm liking it so far. I am still reading. Come with me on this journey. I'm still reading this book. I can't seem to get to it. This poor bookmark has been abandoned in here. I can't seem to want to get to this one, and I am annoyed by that. Like, because again, this is one that everybody loves. So I'm just in a bad spot in it, I think. I'm at a very boring spot. So it's fine. I'll get to it. And then I literally just picked up Open Veins of Latin America by Eduardo Galeano. The foreword is written by Isabel Allende, who I've read before and I loved, and the foreword made me really excited to read this. So we just picked this one up. I'm reading, oh god, this one's heavy. I'm reading these 3 books currently. What is the last book you didn't finish and why? I am not someone who DNFs a lot of books. I'm someone that once I've started it, I'm like, let me just see it through and maybe it'll get better. I'm an optimist at heart. That means I've read books where I'm like, this was a waste of my time. But I will only abandon a book if I, one, feel like it's just not the right time for me to read this. It's not that I hate it, it's just not the right time and I'm just not connecting to it. Or I'm hating it. Like, I'm like hating life and I'm like, get that thing away from me, is when I am gonna DNF something. So the last time I DNF'd something was actually last year in 2023. It was probably around like August, because I had started the book in March and I still wasn't picking it up by August, and I went, yeah, this has to go. The book is called Children of Chicago by Cynthia Pelayo. This I picked, I have like a little mini book club with 2 friends of mine, which we haven't picked up since this book because this book was so bad. We picked up this book because it follows our criteria. We basically want to read books that are written by anybody other than a white, straight, cis male. And it has to be like kind of, fall in like the horror, sci-fi, fantasy genre. So this ticked off this box. Cynthia Pelayo is a Chicago native, Chicago local author. She is a Latina woman, and she wrote this horror novel about this serial killer that starts killing again. And the detective who's on the case like has a personal connection to this serial killer. This book was terrible. I'm sorry. I feel so bad because this is a local author and I, want to support her, but this book was terrible. It really was bad, and that's why I just never wanted to pick it up. No, my 2 other friends in our little group did not want to pick it up, so we eventually were like, okay, we're officially abandoning it. It just wasn't good. Talk about, going back to the first question, talking about the writing has to be strong. I didn't find the writing to be strong here at all. I felt like this author was trying to do too many things. Like, it was a detective who is over to like the classic detective story that she's overworked and overtired and she's on the edge and she should get fired, but she doesn't because her dad had a connection to the police. And then it also was like, had a supernatural element to it. It also had the serial killer bent to it. There was too many things going on and she was not mastering it at all. She was having her hands in too many pots and wasn't like fully mastering each section, so it just made it messy. And there were like characters brought in where I was like, how is this relevant? Who are these characters? I think this book was not ready to be published. I think it needed a couple more rounds with the editor, whoever the editor is. Maybe look inwards. There was also like blatant errors. There was grammatical errors throughout it. There was a CTA red line error that annoyed me to no end. I was like, if you're a Chicago book, make sure you get the CTA stops correctly or I'm gonna be mad. That's when I was like, I'm done. So I DNF'd that. Don't read it. Don't read that book. It was bad. What obscure book do you wish other people would read? I have so many. The question specifically asks for 1 book, but I'm like, what if I sneak in a couple? So I have 3 recommendations, but I will be very quick about them. My first recommendation is John Dollar by Marianne Wiggins. It's about a group of girls back in Burma. They're a group of English schoolgirls who get shipwrecked in what was Burma, the English colony, which is now Myanmar. They get shipwrecked on an island, and it's about their relationship and them dealing with that. Great book that nobody talks about. I have Daddy's Gone Hunting by Penelope Mortimer. Please, I beg of you, this was so well written. This is about a woman in England in the 50s whose daughter is in college and gets pregnant, and she helps her get an abortion. So good, so ahead of its time, so expertly well written, so quietly tense, so good, and nobody talks about it. And Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid. Jamaica Kincaid, I feel like, gets her time on the internet. I think people do really love her, but no one talks about this book in particular. And I think this book is such a brilliant character study, like a really great delve into the mind of one character and how she sees the world. and just the way information is eked out, it's just so beautiful. So those are my three. John Dollar, Daddy's Gone Hunting, and Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid. Which, they're all somewhere in my apartment. I just didn't pick them up. Stop texting me. Stop. What is the longest book you've ever read? Off the top of my head, I was like, is it Gone with the Wind or is it Les Mis? Like, which one is it? So I looked up the page count. Gone with the Wind was 1,037 pages. Les Mis was 1,335. I think it's safe to say Les Mis is the longest book that I've ever read, but I can't say that I really felt it was that long. There were parts I would get so into it that it just, 100 pages would go by and I wouldn't even notice. So Les Mis. Les Mis is definitely the longest. I'm reading War and Peace this year, so I don't know the exact page count of my edition of War and Peace, but War and Peace may take the cake because she a big mama. War and Peace is a big mama. Next. If you could have a dinner party with 5 fictional characters, who would they be? I thought this was such a difficult question because I was like, a lot of the books that I read and a lot of books that I love are like 19th century, and I was like, I don't want this to become just like a dinner party where I'm like reenacting a scene from all of these 19th century novels. As much as I would want to like see what that world is like, if I have a dinner party with all people from the 19th century, might get a little weird. But as it so happens, a lot of these people are from the 19th century. I was also like, what if I just had all 5 of the Bennett sisters? Like, that would actually be kind of fun. But I was like, no, let me mix it up. Let me not be a like classic white girl and just pick the Bennett sisters. However, I would pick Elizabeth Bennet because I think we'd be besties. I think I would get along with her. I like her. I feel like during the dinner party she would look at, like, give me kind of the Jim from The Office side eye, like, can you believe this guy? I also picked Jean Valjean from Les Mis. I feel like he would give like kind of a mysterious edge. Everybody would be like, who? He hasn't talked much during this dinner. Who is this man? And he would just kind of sit there and just be like very calm and just kind of chill, but also secretive and a little weird, which we like. I picked Orlando from Orlando by Virginia Woolf because Orlando is just such an enigmatic person and has lived through centuries, so I would want to be like, tell me, where the heck have you been? What's going on? Orlando's also someone who's changed genders, so she would be able to give me like a deeper perspective on what gender was like throughout these centuries. I just think she would be fascinating. And then I picked like 2 completely out-of-pocket people. I picked Captain Ahab from Moby Dick just because I feel like he'd be able to regale us with some really fun seafaring stories, and I love me a nautical tale. Something you gotta know. I love me a nautical tale, and I'd be like, please tell me all about your exploits in whale hunting. I would just hope he showers before. I hope he bathes, because if he comes in smelling like whale, I'll be like, this is ruining my appetite, you gotta go. But I feel like he'd be so unhinged and I'd be like, yes, go get that leg. Like, I would be cheering him on. And the last person I picked was Ignatius Riley from A Confederacy of Dunces. He would just be off the walls weird. Like, this is someone who, when I read this book, I was like, shades of this character are people that I know. Like, they're just so hapless and ignorant and bawdy and larger than life, but I've never met anyone like that is exactly like this person. And reading that book, I got to know him so well, but I was also like, I would just want to meet this guy. Like, I would just want to be like, watch him like he's a monkey in a cage and be like, who is this man? But I'd want to bring him to this dinner party where everyone else would, I think, be pretty, except maybe Ahab, everyone would be pretty proper and like, you know, and he would just come in like, I think it would just make it very interesting. I think he would liven things up. So I picked Ignatius Riley. So that's my dinner party. Okay. What 5 books would you want if stranded on a deserted island? I despise this question because it stresses me out. Look. I've read great books, but I have so many books that I love, and there's so many books that I have yet to read, that the thought of being on an island for an indeterminate amount of time with only 5 books, like, that causes me, like, I'm, like, anxious. I'm anxious about it. If I had to pick 5, if you, like, put a gun to my head and you say you have to pick 5 books and those are the only ones you have, I would pick Les Mis. This is just gonna become a Les Mis channel. I'm just gonna hype this book up to the end of time. Just because I feel like it's that type of book you could go back to over and over again and get something new each time. When I will go back to read this book, I don't know, but you could go back to it and glean so much from it, especially from all of those essays about certain topics that Hugo takes on. You could delve for a while. The God of Small Things by Aaron Gowdy Roy, just because I love this book. It is one of my favorite books, and still one that I don't think that I have gotten everything out of, and I think it would just be a comfort. Like, I would read it and feel comforted. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I just think this is like one of the most perfect books. Plot-wise, character-wise, tone, style, mood, it's everything. It has everything, and I feel like I could go back to it over and over and not get tired of it. Moby Dick, because I'm on a deserted island, and I feel like you need something nautical. You would need something nautical. There's an urge to do Robinson Crusoe, but I can't say that Robinson Crusoe gripped me in a way that any of these other books did, so I feel like I'd be like, yeah, obvious stranded island book, but I don't know. But Moby Dick for sure, because I feel like, again, you could keep reading it and find new stuff in it, and just the whole nautical element of it would be great. And the last I would bring is War and Peace. Like, I'm bringing a lot of big, heavy books. I'd bring War and Peace, not only because I think it would be a book that I could go back to over and over again, and it is one of those books that people pick as like their desert island books. I've also never read it. So if I were to get stranded on an island tomorrow, I would have something new to read. I'd be like, great, a new book that I can like take my time with and really savor. And then, I mean, I'm hoping it's a book I really love, otherwise I'll use it as kindling, but it's something I think I can return to over and over again, and it's a new read, so I will have something fresh to read. She thinking, what is one book that you could not put down? Again, they're asking for one book here, which is hard, because I have so many where I'm like, I simply can't put this thing down. I'll just go with the last book that this happened to me with. It is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. As much as I don't want to be like, her trauma was really readable, it was. I could not put this book down. I was constantly reading it. I would go, okay, I have to go do something, and then I'd be like, and open it again. It was so good. It was so good, and I'm not the fastest reader in the world, but I read this so quickly because I simply just couldn't put it down. Though I will say, if I have to pick a book that, like, historically I think I was the most, like, I can't stop reading it, was Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. I couldn't stop. And I remember starting it when I was going on a trip with friends, and my friend was like, you probably shouldn't start that book, because if you do, you won't stop reading it, and you won't socialize. And I was like, we'll be fine. And sure enough, I was, like, on the couch, and they were wanting to do stuff, and I was like, give me just a second. So that, I'd say, historically was maybe the one that gripped me. Like, I just remember getting into my head and its talons sinking in. But the most recent being In the Dream House. What are 5 books or authors that you will never read? This is tricky. I went the authors route because there are certain authors that I look at their works and I go, I just don't really see myself reading this. Like, this stuff just doesn't interest me. Controversial, but I also feel bad because I'm like, no, one of these books could come along, or a friend could basically shove it in my hands and make me read it, and then I will like it. I really do try to keep an open mind. However, when I've read excerpts from some of these books, or I just read the synopses, I'm like, I just don't see myself ever picking up anything that this author's written. And I hate to say it, it's all women writers, which I'm like, I don't want it to be a list of all women writers, but here we are. I just don't see myself reading books by these authors. Number 1 being Colleen Hoover. I've read excerpts. Talk about wanting strong writing. I read excerpts and I go, that's not the writing I'm looking for. This is not going to fulfill me in a way that I need. Sorry, Colleen. I just don't see it happening. You also will not see a video on this channel of me being like, I never read Colleen Hoover, and girl who never reads Colleen Hoover is gonna read it for views. I'm not doing that. I'm not wasting my time. My TBR is too filled with books that I actually want to read, so I'm not gonna do it. So I gotta say, it's Colleen Hoover. Emily Henry, I'm just a contemporary romance, which I guess goes in with Colleen Hoover. Contemporary romance is just not something I'm super duper interested in, and the plots for Emily Henry books, I'm just not that interested. Anything by Kristen Hanna, I'm not drawn to it. Sarah J. Maas, all of the Court of Thorns and Roses books, I know that they are fantasy, I know that they're spicy, and I just am not looking for that. I'm not a huge fantasy reader, and those are just not the ones that I'm looking to read. And the last is Allie Hazelwood. Of what I've read from Love Theoretically, I'm like, absolutely not. You're telling me this is a Kylo Ren fanfic that became a book? I'm not interested, I'm sorry. They're all like young-ish contemporary female writers. They're not for me. These are just not the books for me. So I don't see myself reading these authors. Though who knows? Who knows? You can come back to this video and say, ha, I told you so, when I find that I'm obsessed with a Kristen Hanna book. You can call me out. I'm okay with that. If you were to write a book, what would it be about? That is tricky. I don't see myself becoming an author. I am a strong writer, but I don't really see myself being an author. I don't see it happening. So if were I to write a book, I actually think I would be more interested in writing plays, because that's actually what I have more interest and also more experience in. I've written more things for the theater. I have always had an inkling to write a play, which I don't want to talk about it too much on here because I don't want to give somebody my idea. You're not getting my things for free. But if I did have to write a play, I would want to write one about John Wayne Gacy, but write it in the perspective of the victims. Like have it be in like a very tight closed space and have like each of them appear in this closed space talking about their life. And you slowly piece together as the play goes that they're all in the crawl space of John Wayne Gacy's house and they're talking about their lives before they were taken from them, and not have Gacy be a character at all. Have Gacy just not even be present, but yet his presence would be felt. If you live in Illinois, John Wayne Gacy is just like this presence that like looms over this area because everybody has some kind of contingent story of, oh, I knew someone who blah 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 blah. And so I feel like especially if it were to premiere here, that would be really cool because people would like have such a connection to that material. I'm also just a big true crime buff, so the thought of like having to do a ton of research on this would be cool. There's so many like logistical things that would be tricky, but I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool to write something like that. So hopefully no one takes that idea, but it's just something I think about often. If I were to write a novel, it'd be probably something horror. I think I'd try my hand at horror. I know horror is a difficult genre to write, but I would be interested in writing something horror. Something like along the lines of House of Leaves, though I do not think I am smart enough at all to write something like House of Leaves, but something that gives that same kind of uncanny feeling. Maybe something that's like haunted house-esque, or just someone who's like slowly losing their mind, or kind of like the auctioneer thing where someone's slowly taking over somebody else. Or something like kind of like whatever happened to Baby Jane. Like I would want to write something like that. Something along the lines of that, but that's vague as hell. I'm not writing a book anytime soon. You don't count on that. Great. So those are the questions. I think this is so fun. Like even just like thinking of these ahead of time, I'm like, oh, this is so fun to think about because it gets some gears going that I don't usually get going. But now I gotta tag people. I have been, I think, putting off this video because I'm still new to BookTube and I'm still meeting people and I'm a little shy. I'm not very like, I get very introverted. But there's been lovely people who I have met so far in this channel that I want to tag in this. I'm tagging the left-handed reader, Renee, who watches this channel. She's great. She's a great channel if you want to go check her out. She'll be linked below. I'm also tagging Jess from Jess Book Girl TV. She's also been great and I think is tagging me in something soon. So Jess, you're up. Also a great channel if you want to go check her out. And then I was like, well, who else do I ask? And I just went through my subscriber count and just checked out people who have their own booktubes. And I thought this would just be a good way to say, hello, I see you. I see you with your channel. And I also just, this might be a way that you can engage with me or we can have further discussions about books. So I thought I would tag some of them here. I have Jess from Cozy Jess linked below. I really like her stuff. She's very funny. Lucy Rutherford, so Lucy, you're in. And the Disco King, Alex, who liked my channel like a long time ago and has followed it, and I love his content. He's so funny. And we have similar book interests. So feel free to take up this helm. You don't have to if you don't want to. This is just for fun. But I just thought I would tag you in it just to have a little fun, do a little book tag. So yeah, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun. I will keep doing these book tags, so you can tag me in them and I will do them. But I thought this was so fun. Do you agree with any of my takes? You can disagree with some of my takes. If you are a die-hard Allie Hazelwood fan and you want to defend her, absolutely please do. I'm more than willing to hear you out. But those are my little bookish opinions. That is the reader profile tag. yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do what you're gonna do. I'm going to, I feel like I gotta shower. It's so hot in here. And of course I'm wearing a shirt all the way buttoned up and my hair down, so I'm like, but it's so warm in here. Happy June, happy Pride. Go do your thing, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye.